Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. Karol Nawrocki has been elected Poland's next president after the National Electoral Commission confirmed the final results. Backed by the Law and Justice Party, Nawrocki won with 50.89% of the vote, nearly ahead of civic coalition candidate Zabarovski, who received 49.11%. He's scheduled to take office on August 6th. The result overturned early exit polls, which had pointed to a Zabarovski lead. However, projections released late in the evening shifted the picture, with Nawrocki ultimately pulling ahead. According to the Electoral Commission, Nawrocki received his strongest support in southeastern Poland, where 71% of voters backed the Law and Justice candidate. Zabarovski performed best in the west, where he secured 58% in one of the country's most liberal regions. The vote underscored a clear east-west divide. While Nawrocki won the majority of ballots cast within Poland, Zabarovski received broad support from voters abroad. More than 63% of the Polish diaspora voted for the civic coalition candidate. Following Nawrocki's presidential victory, we spoke with political scientist President Zabarovski about what his win could mean for Poland's future relationship with the European Union amid the broader rise of the right in Polish politics.
It is not the institution that shapes the nature of relations between Poland and the EU. The president has only representative functions, and we could see, I would say that to a huge extent, President Nawrocki will step into President Duda's shoes, and in that respect, the nature of the Polish-EU relations will remain the same as long as we will have the current government in power. There are two dimensions that, in addition to that we should observe closely. The first one is the fact that Nawrocki is actually currently also responsible for the votes that he got from the far right. And in that sense, he will be obliged in one way or another to take also these far right narratives into his political positions.
Marcin Zabarovski, Europe editor at TVP World, has been covering the Polish presidential elections live throughout the night. He's joining us now with analysis on Karol Nawrocki's victory and the political landscape ahead. Hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been following the election overnight, and do you think that there were any indicators or projections that could have give you this result that's been flying under your radar?
Well, right from the beginning, we said that the exit poll projections, which were putting Rafał Trzaskowski ahead, were too close to call. So we knew that it could go the other way. And indeed, this is what happened. And I think that that's just one of these stories when you cannot be sure how eventually the vote was going to go. What is the reason why the exit polls got it wrong and then the late poll got it right? That's difficult for me to say. You need to be a pollster to understand that. But the difference for exit poll was something in the margin of 0.5%. So it was clear that this is very, very uncertain. And we did make it clear that it was too close to call.
Definitely so. Now, do you think there's any specific voter turnout patterns, or when it comes to any demographic shift that contributed to a Nawrocki victory?
I think there are two very, very important factors here. Number one, it is first-time voters opted for Karol Nawrocki. So the first two groups of the first-time voters and then the voters until under 30, they went for Nawrocki. And that's a big difference between this election and the election in October 2023, which brought to power the current government. The current government was supported by first-time voters then, and it looks like that the people who supported the government then, they changed their mind, they got disappointed, they decided not to opt for the government this time around, and they opted for Karol Nawrocki. So I think that's a very big difference here. Number two, a very important element here is the far-right vote. So the far-right voters, who account for something like 20%, overwhelmingly went for Karol Nawrocki. So when you compare it with the election from 2020, about 40% of far right went for Trzaskowski. Now it was only 10%. So the option which came third decided to opt for Karol Nawrocki. And that's where we are. So that seems that the bubble of the government has shrunk, is smaller, and that they are not getting out of this bubble.
All right, that's a very interesting statistic you brought out. In just 2 short years, turnout for the first-time voters has switched from one party to another. Now, my question would be, with the shrinking of the bubble, so to speak, what's up ahead for Polish politics? Now we see President and the Prime Minister being from different parties. Do you think that it's going to cause some gridlock when it comes to how to carry out policies?
Well, yes and no. Certainly, the vote itself is a red card for the government. It means that the people are dissatisfied with the work of the government, that the government is unpopular, that the electorate decided to vote for a political novice, actually. Mr. Nawrocki has never held an elected office. He's unknown to politics, really. And he won against Rafał Trzaskowski, 2 times mayor of Warsaw, former Europe minister, former member of the European Parliament, man with tons of experience. So that's clearly really an emotion where the emotions of the electorate were here against the government.
Right.
And it is reinvigorating the opposition, no doubt about it. It will make Mr. Nawrocki probably more difficult for the government than the current outgoing president, Mr. Duda. But then again, let's remember that in the Polish system, presidential powers are limited when it comes to the actual job of the executive. The president can be difficult, can disrupt, but cannot really create anything.
All right, thank you so much for your input and insight and helping us breaking that down. And, well, thanks for the work for yesterday, carrying out this whole night. Appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Cheers. European leaders have congratulated Karol Nawrocki on his narrow presidential win. Backed by law and justice, Nawrocki has signaled a shift away from the pro-liberal stance of Prime Minister Donald Tusk and broader EU policies. Our EU correspondent Angela Scoochins is in Brussels. Angela, so what have the leaders said as the result came in, and does it match what we expect from Nawrocki as a president?
Yes, so the latest that we've heard is congratulations from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, he wrote on social media platform X that he personally congratulates Nawrocki for this win, and he reiterated that Poland is an important character in the EU for bolstering security and defence. Now, this theme of security and defence was also reiterated by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in her own post on X. She wrote that she is confident that the EU will continue its very close cooperation with Poland in terms of peace, democracy and values. So both of these comments are quite striking. Nawrocki has signalled a step away from certain EU policies. He has railed against the EU Green Deal, as well as reforms for migration, as well as asylum. He has also previously stated that he would block Ukraine's accession bid to the 32-member alliance of NATO. So both of these congratulations are quite interesting. We'll have to spend the rest of the day unpacking them. But we also heard from the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. He wrote on social media platform X that he too congratulated Nawrocki for his win. And he said that he's looking forward to working with Nawrocki for strengthening the Visegrad cooperation. So Nawrocki comes from the Law and Justice Party, that Eurosceptic political organisation in Europe, which presents a real challenge to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk with his pro-EU reformist policies. We know that hundreds of billions of EU funds are currently frozen and waiting to be unblocked. If Tusk's reforms go ahead, this is a real challenge now, as Nawrocki can veto any of these reforms that Tusk wants in the pipeline. It also throws a lot of question remarks around Poland's position within the EU. We know that under the tutelage of Tusk, it has really climbed up the ladders, being respected as a major EU power broker. So this presidential runoff election that we saw yesterday, record numbers, as we just heard, a large surge of younger voters. It does raise a lot of questions about Poland's confidence in the administration of Donald Tusk, but with 5 more years ahead of Nawrocki as he helms this mandate as president, we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this and whether he can work with Tusk or we'll see some divergence there. But that's all from Brussels. I'll send it back to you in Warsaw.
Right, thank you so much, Angela. We'll have to see how that unpacks, but in the meantime, appreciate it. Direct talks between Russia and Ukraine are set to begin in Istanbul. Now, the second round of negotiations follow a large-scale Ukrainian attack on Russia's bomber fleet, raising doubts about how much progress can realistically be made. Our correspondent Alex Kadir is in Istanbul. Alex, so does this latest escalation mean that the talks are already dead in the water, or is there still room for maneuver?
Well, the feeling is that these talks were pretty much already dead in the water even before that large-scale attack, a very sophisticated attack from Ukraine's SBU against those Russian warplanes which have been used for targeting Ukrainian cities and Ukrainian civilians. So there was a sense that these talks, these negotiations between Ukraine and Russia are becoming less and less productive. Not that they were particularly productive the first time around, because the key decision makers are not here. We have a Russian delegation, including a presidential advisor for the Russian side, and on the Ukrainian side, led by Rustem Umerov, the defense minister. The last negotiation, of course, resulted only in a prisoner swap and an agreement to share each other's negotiating position and talk again. Well, the Russians haven't even shared their negotiating position ahead of this meeting. They've also complained that although the Ukrainians have shared their position, they did not share it in the Russian language. So our viewers can make up their own opinion as to how productive the Russian side is approaching these meetings. So certainly a lot of quibbling behind the scenes, a lot of small arguing about really small logistics of these meetings. And as I said, the key decision makers are not in the room. Nevertheless, both sides have to engage with these talks because of that pressure from the United States, from Donald Trump. He wants to see a deal reached, but clearly at the moment, both following that attack from Ukraine on Russia and general Russian frustration of the process, a breakthrough in the next couple of hours seems unlikely.
It does seem like this thing will drag on a little bit more, but in the meantime, thank you so much for your update. Appreciate it. Russia attacked the city of Kharkiv with drones and ballistic missiles on Sunday night, wounding at least 6 people, including a child. According to the city's mayor, nearly 500 Russian drones and missiles were launched into Ukrainian airspace. At the same time, the Russian army shelled the Zaporizhia and Sumy regions, killing 11 people and wounding 9 others. The strike on a western district of Kharkiv injured 6 people, including a 7-year-old boy. 2 more Russian ballistic missiles hit the northern part of the city. One struck a road just meters from a school, while the other exploded next to a residential high-rise. The city mayor said the attack damaged multiple homes, businesses, and vehicles. Meanwhile, shelling in the southern city of Zaporizhia and the northeastern Sumy region killed at least 11 people and wounded 9 more. According to the governor of the Sumy region, 2 children were among those injured. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that a recent special operation targeting Russian airfields involved over 100 drones and took more than a year to prepare. The operation was carried out by Security Service of Ukraine and marks one of the most complex cross-border missions conducted inside of Russian territory.
A total of 117 drones were used in the operation, and a corresponding number of operators was employed. 34% of the strategic cruise missile carriers at the targeted airfields were hit. Our people were operating in different Russian regions in 3 time zones and were withdrawn from Russian soil on the eve of the operation, and now they are safe, those who helped us. It's really nice to see efforts that I authorized 18 months ago, working and taking more than 40 strategic aircraft from the Russians.
And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. Before news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.